So we're sitting inside the tea room of Carisbrooke Castle, and I'm sitting here with the lovely Sarah from Isle of Wight Guided Tours, and we're just going to run through a little bit about what West Wight really has to offer and this side of the island. So a bit of a run through, we went through Freshwater Bay today and Hanover Point, and I just wanted to have a little bit more chat about the history of this side of the Isle, and it's the festival that's involved, and with 600,000 we were talking about in the 70s with Jimi Hendrix. Just amazing history. So we can just talk a little bit more about this side and what it has to offer.
Well, many people like to come to the west side of the Isle of Wight for its beaches. So there's some wonderful surfing at Hanover Point.
That we saw, yeah. Definitely.
And also there's a lot of history here.
Yeah.
So it's the place where Tennyson came to live, Alfred Lord Tennyson, poet laureate, and with him a lot of famous Victorians who also came to live there. So that has made it an interesting place for many people for many years. Rich in history.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got the freshwater circle of friends.
That's right,
yes.
yeah. And then I suppose after them, in the 1960s, the most famous thing that happened to the island then was the Pop Festival, which was organised in the late 1960s by a couple of local lads who just wanted to raise some money for a local charity or something like that. And so they thought they'd have a music festival, and what started as something very small suddenly became something much bigger. Yeah, they managed to get hold of Bob Dylan and asked him if he'd come. And of course, once you get one famous name, others will follow. Yeah. And Bob Dylan happened to like Tennyson's poetry, so he thought, he'd come to this festival.
Even post Lord Tennyson's death, he's still bringing lots of tourism to the Isle.
Yeah. So that first pop festival was probably a bit, there was one little one, and then there was a much bigger one, very big, in fact, 600,000 people, which is just...
We passed through the field, and it's just I've just come back from Belgium, Tomorrowland, where there was 300,000, and that's a very large spacing. And those fields, I couldn't imagine the influx of people for 600,000 people on there.
It was just huge.
Mind-boggling, yeah, huge.
And I think they couldn't manage the gate, so people just sat where they could, and it must have been incredible to see. However, it did cause a few problems for the island, so they actually had to stop large gatherings for a while. Although in recent years we've started the festival again on a different site now, much more controlled. So it's still here, and people still love to come to it, which is usually beginning of August. The yachting starts at Cowes. Cowes has been a place where people have come for special yacht racing since 1815 or something like that, a long time ago.
The royal family bringing that into.
That's right.
In this particular castle, this is where Beatrice, the youngest of Victoria and Albert's children, kind of resided.
That's right.
She's really popular on this island.
Yes, she was governor here for about 40 years, so she's very big influence. And her family loved yachting. Yes, they did come for that in the summer. Yeah. But she lived here. In quite small surroundings, really. The museum we've just been in, that was her house. Not a huge place or very palatial, really.
And even Osborne House has that kind of more homely feel than a royal kind of extravagant feel. So you've got the fake gold kind of painted in the house service areas, and then you've got the obviously afterwards the Indian inspired kind of quarters running through there. But we did have a look at some of the escape rooms.
Yes, that's right.
Talk a little bit more about that would be great.
Yeah. So also when she came to live here, she had a few rooms here, and her family would come and stay with her here. But before she came here, we had another famous royal at Carisbrooke Castle, which was Charles I. He came here in 1647 when he was actually imprisoned here for about 15 months. And that was before he was taken back to London and executed, so quite a hard time for him. At first he enjoyed a certain amount of freedom. He was allowed to go bowling on the bowling green at the back of the castle. He was allowed to visit people, but he tried to escape a couple of times, and so they locked him up properly. And then after he was here, two of his children were imprisoned here at the castle for a little while as well.
I think one of his daughters passed away.
She did. Princess Elizabeth died here and was buried in Newport in the church in the middle of Newport called St Thomas's. Now, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert actually had that church rebuilt in the 1850s. They came across her lowly little grave and decided to make a big monument for her.
We did actually see some of her hair that they kind of...
That's right.
Yeah,
we had
it was still intact.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So a little bit of a sad story for her, but the island is unusual in we have two princesses who are buried here: Princess Elizabeth in Newport, and then Princess Beatrice over at Whippingham.
The Queen also passing on the Isle here.
And she died here, yes, at Osborne. Yes. So
rich in history.
Rich in our royal history,
Royal
certainly.
history,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So
that's amazing. Thank you so much.
thank you.